Lesson 119, Argyros. It just so happens that the Greek word for gold and the Greek word for silver are part of the class of nouns that we're working with in this book.
Mm-hmm.
So I added them in so we could make more sentences. And so they already know chrysos, which means gold. And so now we have the word for silver, Argyros. And this might be a good time, Catherine, to talk about cognates. Sometimes a word in Latin and a word in Greek will come from the same, ancestral word.
Yeah, and in that case, a lot of times what will happen is they'll grow, taking the idea of the ancestral word as kind of the trunk of the tree, and the Greek and Latin words, or whatever language you're dealing with, are the branches. The Greek and Latin words will grow in slightly different directions. So, for example, here we have argyros in Greek, and then in Latin we have argentum, which sound similar and have that same arg root, but have grown in slightly different directions because of the other part of the word, the last part of the word, that sounds different in those two cases. But you can still see the original root there.
And when you talk about a tree and roots, that reminds me of the diagram you sometimes see in books, the diagram of what they call Proto-Indo-European, which is supposed to be this sort of mother language that gave birth to all the languages stretching from Europe all the way to India.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's called Indo-European, the Indo-European. It's called Indo-European because it stretches all the way from India to Europe. We don't have any actual written evidence of this language, but linguists and scholars have sort of reverse engineered it and figured out that it did exist at one time. If you see it in a book abbreviated, they'll abbreviate it as PIE, Proto-Indo-European. And so all the languages that came from this mother language include languages like Sanskrit, which is the classical language of India, Germanic languages, Slavic languages like Russian, Greek. Ancient Greek is one branch of that tree. Then you have Latin and all the Romance languages.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Germanic and Scandinavian languages too. So German, Latin, Greek, and Russian, all those languages are like basically cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have some similar root words, and they all have some similar structural characteristics. So we call that the Indo-European language family. And when you go to Asia, to languages like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, those are in a different language family.
Right.
And if you go down to the Middle East, to Hebrew, Arabic, those languages are in a different family called Afro-Asiatic. So those are not in the Indo-European language family. But again, Greek, Latin, German, Sanskrit, that's all in the family called Indo-European.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when languages are in the Proto-Indo-European language family or language tree, we will have what's called a cognate word. And cognate literally means born together, right?
Right.
So the word cognate is C-O-G-N-A-T-E. And the C-O part means together. And then the G-N-A-T part means born. So looking at this lesson, we can say that the word argentum in Latin and the word argyros in Greek are cognates. Or we can say that argentum is cognate with argyros. So it's no coincidence that they have similarities. They're similar because they're cousin words, or what we call in linguistics, cognates.
Exactly.
So at this point in the book, you know 4 different forms for a noun. You know the nominative singular, nominative plural, accusative singular, accusative plural. And so we have those displayed in the chart. Let's take a look at our example sentence. It's got 2 parts to it because it's got haughty. In the first part, we have some people having some silver. So hemes and echomen together says we have. Arguron is our new word for this lesson. That's silver. Notice that it's in the accusative case. And upota means never. So we never have silver.
And then it says hoti because didaskaloi esmen. Didaskaloi esmen together say we are teachers, because esmen has that we pronoun embedded in it, and then didaskaloi is the predicate nominative.